Thank you guys all for coming to our Commission Strategies panel. So again, if we have questions for myself or for any of our wonderful panel members throughout the session, we can tweet them to IQ Stacy, or we can open it up at the end of the session and you can actually just raise your hand and ask a question. So what are we going to talk about today? We want to talk to dealers just like yourselves about two things. Employee commissions, so specifically, what's working and what's not working and why is that? We also want to talk about carrier commissions. So, we talked about it this morning in the keynote is, margin from carrier commissions is shrinking, so what can dealers be doing to make up for that loss in any carrier commissions? This is another quote from attendee last year, just saying, being with like retailers is such a treat, and I would like to see the knowledge or expertise of those retailers be made more available. I just said to these guys that this is like my dream presentation because A, I don't have to do a lot of the talking, but B, it's my favorite topic ever because it has to do with employee commissions, and I, for some reason, just love that. And this is the dream team. I just adore all of these guys so much. I value their opinions so much, and I am very excited for you to have the opportunity to hear exactly what they're doing. So let's just meet who we have on our panel today. First, we have Dean Leja. Dean's the Vice President of Cellular and More. They have 7 Verizon locations in the Michigan market. Beside him, we have Mark Butler. Mark's the owner of AT&T Product Center. They've got 31 AT&T locations in the New York market. Next to him, we have Scott Levinson. Scott's the Chief Operating Officer of A Wireless. They have 120 Verizon locations nationwide. And then we've got Mike Prendergast. I hope I said that right. Mike's the Chief Operating Officer of Mobilecom, who has 46 AT&T locations across Florida and Pennsylvania. So before we jump into questions, I just think it's something worth reminding everybody that it's such a common thing that is being talked about right now. Do I need to pay my employees more? Are my employees happy with my compensation? What can I do to make them happier so that they make more and in turn we make more? The #1 reason for leaving a job last year was employees are seeking a higher pay elsewhere. It's no secret to anyone. We've got turnover in this industry is extremely high. So what can we do to make sure that we can get good staff, keep those staff, and incent them properly so that they're satisfied and making as much as we can? So with that being said, let's just jump directly into talking to our dream team over here. My first question for Dream Team is if you could just describe your current compensation plan, but specifically, what do you like about it, what works, and maybe what have you gone through or seen that doesn't work that maybe made you go away from that?
Thank you, Stacy. We've gone a different direction. We pay hugs and kisses. Find very effective, happy employees sell more. And also we picked up this morning flowers in all the stores. Very similar gross profit. Tier-based though. We went with a tier-based approach, so your low performers, those that are clerking, are not going to earn a ton of commissions, not costing us, we go higher on the higher end. So, and then we got around financial terms. We found that especially for sales consultants, the concept of gross profit, even the word gross profit, it's a financial term. It gets a little daunting, so we just change it to the word contribution. It's something that they can understand more. This is what you contribute towards basically the bottom line of the company. So we do that tier-based, and we handle that for our activations, etc. And then we have another set for accessories, since that's such a highly profitable part of our business. And then we move into some what I call kickers. We call it a haymaker just to have some fun with it, but those will be some key metrics that pay additional percentages. It might be for us on the Verizon side, jetpacks, mobile broadband, etc., where they can earn additional percentages. I think the thing that we did that I found super effective, because I've been doing this my whole career, so I've seen I mean, every single one. It's all about driving behavior, driving additional profit. So it's hard to say what will work for each organization. I think it depends on where your sales organization is, what your culture looks like. But what I found is you're paying faster, they like that, right? If you take a long time to pay them, they're not sure how to spend their money. They're not great at budgeting. Most people are, and I'll raise my hand. I'm not good at budgeting either. And then the other thing is we baked our comp plan with chargebacks. So you're not getting charged back. The best part about that is if you make $500, you made $500. Okay. The worst part, how many times has anyone heard a story and someone's crying because they can't pay their rent because they've been getting $500 commission checks, and then all of a sudden they get a $0 commission check. So what we've done historically is looked at our chargeback rate, baked our plan, and then what we do is manage chargebacks down to the individual, making sure no one crosses a threshold. If you don't cross this threshold, we're not that concerned about the chargebacks. We know how to maintain that part of the business. And we've tried multiple strategies, including just paying straight on a box. But when we handle it this way, they understand what's profitable for the company, and then also stressing to do the right thing for the customer as well. Just because this particular product, is more profitable than another particular product, doesn't mean that's what we should be pushing to the customer. So it's really a blended piece for the sales consultants. And then I think we're talking about employee compensation. So I'm just really talking about sales consultants, which sounds like what we're talking about here. But we have a very similar program for store leaders, district leaders, and regional leaders, where it is contribution based, and they have different kickers. And we can give them more. Obviously, the higher that you move through your sales hierarchy level, the more kind of other kickers and KPIs you can kind of throw at them, and they can manage to it. So we follow that all the way through. So if we make it another $50, that gets passed all the way through from the top level, including our VP of sales, all the way through the sales consultant, keeps everyone going.
Awesome.
And so we get all kinds of metrics and all kinds of targets that we have to try to hit. And so our comp plan, from the top all the way down, just like Scott's, is affecting everybody. And so we have different comp structures for different people. All my direct reports all share in GP and target the GP, so that when we have good months, they have better. And when we have bad months, they suffer the pain I do. But it helps me know that when I'm not there, they're all shooting for the exact same targets that I'm shooting for, because it affects their bottom line and their quality of life as well. Down to district managers, sales managers, we have different comp structures, but it's all based on profitability. And so, like Scott said, when we get extra, whether it's compensation that comes in or whether it's extra bonuses or spiffs, that all gets passed down. But when it comes to the frontline sales, is where we're probably very different from everybody else in the room. We try to figure out what we could do to motivate them to sell what we need them to sell. And as you all know, it's very difficult because, at least in the AT&T world, we get information monthly or weekly that changes, and what's hot today and what their focal point is. And to get that engine rolling, to get that distribution team to be able to accomplish what they want is very difficult when you're just working on straight across GP. Because maybe MPP or maybe tablets or wireless home phones don't bring in that much revenue this month, but you really need to do it to make the carrier happy. And so we're able to do an upfront comp structure that we pay live. And what I mean by that is we have for our front staff, we pay them their hourly salary or hourly pay based on their managers or their salespeople. But every item they touch has a unique dollar amount attached to it, which gets a little bit scary, but we pay up front. So the one negative, and Stacy asked us, what is the negative? You have to have deep pockets. You need to be able to lay out the money before you get the comp from the carrier. So when people work for us and they work for 2 weeks in a 2-week cycle, they get paid their hourly salary or their hourly comp if they're managers. And then every item they sell, we have a dollar value. And then what we do is we'll break it down to them and ask what they think they need per hour on commission. And so what we find is, at least in the Northeast, when you're dealing with salespeople, they want to know what they're making an hour. Hugs and kisses are great, and the W-2 at the end of the year, they look at it, they don't, it's what am I making hourly because my friend's making this hourly. And in our business, we we really need to focus on sales and driving them in the direction we want to go. And so we break it out for them. We show them how much they can get from us on a raise, but then we show them how much they can make hourly on their own if they drive the metrics that we want them to drive. And so it's real simple, it's real basic. You know, you sell this wireless home phone and you make, you know, $30. It's that aggressive sometimes. And maybe next month we'll tone it down, we'll do something else. So they're all aware exactly what it is. It's how our accessories are so high because we compensate extremely high accessories. We all know that the categories are changing. We're struggling with trying to figure out how in this ever-changing economy where our expenses are going up, our volume is going up, our gross sales are going up, which means all of our fees are going up on credit cards and on bank fees and everything else. And yet, at the end of the day, our cost per opportunity or our profit per opportunity is dropping. And so the only way to really combat that is to really start driving the metrics that the people in the front line can understand. And that is, if I sell the screen protector, how much do I make? And what we found is when we started talking about GP and the whole concept of it with different KPIs and sliding scales, it was too hard for them to comprehend. And we were losing some of the frontline salespeople. Our managers got it, our DMs got it, but the frontline people were struggling with that. So we went this route. The one negative of doing it, like I said before, is paying up front. It's chargebacks, it's returns, we're laying out the money to them before we get paid. And so we have a big back end that really has to oversee everything and make sure that no one's playing any games for us.
Great. I know Eric talked about it this morning, but our State of the Industry survey that we sent out, one of the top concerns that you had was how do we attract good employees and how do we retain them? So comp plans aside, you know, what are we doing to get the best employees and what are we doing to keep those employees? So the second question I will ask the panel is, what steps are you taking to ensure you've got more success in finding employees, correct employees the first time? And how do you identify that those that are not performing and how do you handle underperformers? Anyone want to jump in on that one first?
Since you complained about me taking our answers, you might want to take this one.
Just for that, Scott, you're going to go first.
All right. That worked. This is the biggest challenge, I'm sure, for everyone on this panel and everyone in the building is finding these employees. And then sometimes when we're finding employees and filling the pool, it's finding qualified employees, right? I mean, anyone can find people that can breathe. We've had some people that aren't breathing, I think, in some stories, but they're enthusiastic. About 75% of the job is just enthusiasm, I say. We can teach the other 25%, right? So we need to go out and find enthusiastic folks. We tried, I'm sure everyone has, we tried all the job boards. We switched every couple of months. We switch because we get better or worse results. No different than anyone else here. As you Google at them all, we've probably used every single one of them. But the key is to use existing employees that are enthusiastic about the culture of the organization to bring in new individuals. So we really focus on body snatching, going out there and trying to grab key individuals from other organizations, whether we've been effective in the tellers, we've seen restaurants, etc. Both Rich and I and other people in our company, we've been in restaurants that offer people jobs when they're enthusiastic. I mean, we've seen that be very, very effective. We also hire a lot of family members, etc. We're finding that be effective. We're also doing a lot of behavioral assessments because when we do get the candidates, we want to make sure that they are interested in sales and that they're going to be a fit. It costs the company a lot of money. It's an investment on both sides, both to the employee and to the organization. We want to make sure that they're a right fit. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a retail store and someone's not enthusiastic, so I start approaching them, asking them questions, and they tell me they don't like sales. I don't know how we end up in a sales role. So, we're starting to use some of that behavioral assessments. It works for us because we're a large organization. If you're a small organization, it gets pretty costly, so you have to make those decisions. How we identify people that are not performing, we have dashboards, we have balanced scorecards. So we don't look at just one metric or KPI to determine whether someone's performing or not. We look at a balanced way of looking at it. And to be honest with you, we know what it costs us to pay an employee and to have employees within. So as I was talking earlier about contribution, we know a sales consultant has to generate X number of dollars in contribution for us to even cover our costs. And that's how we start to determine that. Now what we do with them, that's the most important part, right? Because there's lots of reasons people don't perform, and it's not always because they're lazy. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know, right? And so we have to help them through that. So as an organization, it's very costly to bring an employee in, so we need to spend the time and attention in making sure that they understand what the plan is and how to achieve that. I can tell you in the past, we tried different approaches. We tried the very punitive approach. If you don't do this, then you won't have a job type approach, which, to be honest with you, is not overly effective with most people. Some people do work well that way, but instead, putting them on a very focused plan and then managing to that plan, giving them specific timelines. So you have 30 days to improve X, Y, and Z. This is what you're going to need to do, and this is what we're going to do to assist you. And then obviously we'll, handle it for underperformance. Obviously we're going to terminate employment, make them a customer. But that's not the preference of anyone. I mean, who hires people to want to terminate them, right? Costly, it looks really bad. There's nothing worse than other people out there not wanting to come on board because you're turning your employee workforce, 3 to 4 times, 5 to 10 times a year. So that's how we do it.
Great.
People, we have really good luck at trying to get the people that are 25 years old and older. I mean, it's kind of our sweet spot that we try to focus on. That being said, the secondary that we look for is you gotta have some form of sales experience. When you hire people that have no sales experience, it's very difficult to bring them into your organization and expect them to perform at the levels that we want them to perform at. So we really focus on that. Once you have those two things in place, then the third piece is culture. Do they fit in the culture? Are they going to be disruptive in our stores with the rest of the staff? Or are they going to blend? Ideally, you want to hire somebody that's going to come into your organization and bring everybody else up to their level instead of us bringing somebody up to our level there. So we really focus on that. But the same struggles is where do you get the resumes from? Where do you get all that from? Employee, referrals are great because then those are the same type of people that you have in your organization already. So. And how do we identify if they're not working in an organization? Because of the way we have our comp structure set up, it's kind of, you're getting paid commissions and your KPI bonuses, or minimum wage, whichever's greater. So when people constantly make minimum wage month after month, it's kind of a self-weeding program for us. We don't really have to be the one that has to put the hammer down. So if we've exhausted our options and work together, it's pretty easy to say you can just go to Farmer Jack's and make the same money being a bagger. It's a lot less stress, So, but that's been our thing. It's just we have a self-weeding, so it's pretty easy to identify right off the get-go. We utilize a lot of reporting with the BI, and we can immediately pinpoint everything, strengths and weaknesses, in a quick glance of a sheet there. So when we go to work with our people, we can immediately see if they're not selling the handset protection plans or if they're not selling new activations, and it's very easy to go work with them exactly what they're having their struggles in and whatnot. So.
Great. Mike, any thoughts?
So it really varies by our markets. The Florida market, we happen to be very fortunate where whenever we run ads in a number of... Give me the mic. Thanks. It really varies by our market. The Florida market, we find that through the different vehicles that we advertise in, we get monstrous amounts of applicants. And we've been very, very successful in being able to attempt to weed through who's going to work and who isn't. In Philadelphia, we're a lot more restricted, where we don't get as many applicants. It seems to be a more challenging market to be able to hire people within, which is amazing to me with the unemployment rate, the way that it is across the United States. I recently heard a statistic that really shocked the hell out of me, and that was at an AT&T roundtable meeting, where they said that within our industry, in the indirect channel, that we have a 60% attrition rate for our salespeople. And when I started looking at the math, ours isn't quite that bad, but it's pretty high. And then the cost associated with that, losing that employee, can be literally thousands and thousands of dollars annually. And when I did the math, just in one market alone, I think it was costing us like $160,000 a year, which is crazy, considering that we're concerned about how much we pay our people. But yet, we're throwing this money out the back door sideways. So one of the things that we do, you hope to hire the right person, right? You know, I love Ken Blanchard's statement where, you know, we don't hire bad people, we create them, and I tend to agree that he's right. So we really focused hard on our boarding process. We have a 3-week boarding process to make sure that we're giving people the right information to be able to attempt to be successful within their position. Because you know, part of the real challenge for employees is when you just throw them in there, you know, tell them to take these classes and do this and do that, and then you walk away from them and they get lost in the process. So by having a really good hands-on boarding process where they know on a day-to-day basis what they need to accomplish in order to move forward, the managers are checking in to find out on their progress. You put up connect to them a team person that walks them through, that's there to answer any questions they have. You tend to mitigate those employees that leave early on because they're nervous or unhappy or confused about what their tasks are. And then we have what used to be a discipline program, and now it's called a sales success plan, that when employees are not really and even when they are, and now we've recently started doing it for all employees, when they're not hitting their metrics or when they're trudging along, you usually have somebody that does really well in 3 or 4 metrics and then not as well in 2 or 3. We have the sales success plan that helps them recognize where the benchmark is, where they could be, how much money they left on the table by not achieving that benchmark, so that they can see where the real income is. And then usually we attempt to sit down with them and talk about, the manager's task is to sit down with them along with the regional and figure out what their goals are financially. Like they want to buy a new car, they're interested in buying a house, they're getting a baby on the way. And then help them figure out what do they really need in order to make that accomplishment. And then show them in an outlined way, by hitting certain metrics, they'd be able to fulfill that need. And it seemed to have worked. We haven't really done a check and balance to see where we were versus where we are on nutrition, but it's a discussion that we had earlier today about finding a way to track.
Great. I know that I don't think anyone in this room would disagree that, you know, carrier commissions are getting lower, margins are smaller. I know that's been being brought up over and over.
Actually, the carrier says that our commissions aren't.
And the carrier is always right, right?
I say we can make the same amount of money if we sell more.
Just sell more. What additional products and services are you guys, have you recently added or considering added to bring in more sales and gross profit into the stores? Mark?
I'm actually going to just add one piece to the last puzzle, which is something that we found for hiring people before jumping into the new question, because I think everybody struggles with the same problem. And so for a long time, we had people that were with us forever. You know, the guys who have helped build the business. We have district managers, store managers, 14 years, 15 years. And over the last year, we just started really realizing the same thing that you guys did, which is what is it costing us? And our churn just started going up and up as far as the employees. And so one thing that we implemented, among others, that I just found interesting and very inexpensive, and it seems to work, is we have a new hire lunch once a month. So once a month, myself and my partner have lunch, and any new hire that works for us is invited. We take them to a real simple place like Applebee's, and we just get the opportunity to sit in front of them, and they get the opportunity to sit in front of the owners, and we just kind of ask them questions about themselves, and I think it makes them feel real comfortable with the organization, and they feel like they belong, as opposed to just a number and getting a paycheck. So.
Nice.
Okay, so what was the question?
What are we selling, what are we considering adding to bring in more sales in GP, or have recently added?
Well, with AT&T, obviously the big push is wireless home phones and tablets. And every single person in the room, I'm sure, knows that tablets are going to be the biggest thing. And yet in a wireless store, we're struggling trying to get our customers to think of us about buying wireless tablets. And so some of the strategies that we put in place, because we know it's a huge market and there's a lot of revenue there, we have our sales staff ask every single customer what tablets they currently use. And we think that we can pick up enough profit from the tablets, between the tablets, the plans on the tablets, and the accessories for the tablets that we're losing in all the other areas. And it's just a numbers game. It's just a matter of asking every customer. People don't like rejection. So what we found initially is our salespeople were asking the first 5 or 6 customers, and then nobody's buying them. And so then now we're back with them where they have to continually ask everybody, and we're seeing the numbers starting to take off.
Great. Dean.
I agree with Mark. It's been forcing us to look at all the other things that the carrier wants you to sell, like the Home Phone Connect, the Home Fusions, the tablets, all those other things, because the days of just buying a cell phone are kind of gone. New activations are hard to get anymore. What age doesn't have a cell phone at this point? So it's always been a struggle on that. But along with that, it's also reaching out to your accessory vendors, and it's reaching out to your handset protection plans, and it's about introducing all these other things that you have to. So if you want to be truly successful, if you have to be good in all the things, the carrier is kind of forcing you that you can't just choose what you want to do to be good at. You can't just be good at new activations and expect to survive. You can't just be good at customer retention if you're not selling everything else. So you kind of got to focus on the whole package now, without focusing on the package and without putting game plans together and holding expectations and figuring out what the company needs to accomplish. It's just difficult. You're always going to struggle in this industry right now. But if you do it right and you focus, it provides a lot of opportunity for your salespeople, it provides opportunity for you, and it can be very lucrative at the same time. So,
Scott?
ATMs and vending machines.
Is that beside the hugs and kisses booth?
Everyone's going to know it, so I'm trying to give some new ideas. You know, we offer the, ancillary products with satellite, DirecTV, to help boost revenue in the stores. That's helping. Insurance, there's lots of insurance guys out there. We have TNT Securitel. It's been a very profitable piece for us in the business, and our base has been building over time. So what we knew is, many years ago is we were never going to make the same amount of money today that we did 2 years ago, and we're not going to make the same amount in 2 years from now. So we're constantly trying to push the envelope on products and services. Recently, we were spending a lot of time in mobile applications, so we launched NQ Mobile about 2 months ago, and that's bringing in a significant amount of money. They have a family guard program. They have another program called Evolve, and we're looking at music as applications that we can sell folks in store. What we find is, if our sales team is doing a great job and providing a great experience, they will actually ask what we recommend for applications on their phones. Everyone's spending tons of money on applications. So if we're able to offer those in store, we're able to pick up that revenue that they couldn't be picking up. So we're utilizing that. And then obviously looking at any type of accessory product with high margin that we can bring in that doesn't take away from another product. Bringing in a different type of car charger, that's just taking away from a different type of sale. So I know people have done well with Bluetooth speakers. We've been challenging our team to sell those products. Things like a stylus, just silly something that things don't have that doesn't take away from any other sale. So those are the type of products we're looking at. And then, we do think outside the box. I wasn't even joking about, someone presented an idea of having Coke products in our stores. And it wasn't really just about driving the revenue in the store. It was more about keeping customers in the store and keeping them more satisfied while they're right in there. So we don't laugh at any option that's thrown at them. We do laugh at some of them, but we look at them all seriously because every year we're going to have to get better and better at our craft. We're going to have to sell more additional and more complex products. Better to do it now, get $50 ahead, and then get the haircut of $50, and then we're in the same spot we are today.
Exactly. So kind of along the same lines, does anyone on the panel have any sales strategies for maximizing existing products? So products that maybe you've offered, forever, but we need to reinvent the way that we're focused on them. Do we need to compensate people differently on them? Do we need to change our pricing? Do we just need to do better focus? So I won't pick out any one individually, but does anyone have anything they want to add?
All right, I guess I'm going to take this one. Typically what happens is you plateau. That's what we typically see. You have too many products, and I'm going to use our NQ Mobile as a great example. So we launched the program, and we struggled in the beginning. We had a very low attachment rate. And then we got on them a little bit, the sales team, we got it up to around 20%. Where's Moorhead in here? We're higher than Moorhead Communications. That's all I can say. So we got that up to around 20%, and then we started seeing that dip down, into the 13, 14, 15% range. And so the key is for us to create a strategy to get it back up to maybe 25%, and then the truth is it'll probably trickle back down to 20. So what we find effective, because we pay off of gross profit, we call it contribution. Sometimes throwing an extra spiff, and it's a dollar spiff, actually freaks them out. They don't even understand. They're like, oh no, I thought everything's gross profit contribution. Now you want to give me an extra $5. So it's something that they're not used to that kind of shocks the system. I find that very effective. Also, very large sales contests. Now this won't work for everyone, but for example, we're doing a Super Bowl contest. And the winners, top sales consultant and the top store leader, is going to get a trip to the Super Bowl. It's worth maybe $10,000 or $12,000, or you're going to pay up the taxes, but they have to go through and jump through some hoops to get there, and they have to be our top performing folks. So it can't be the everyday. Keep in mind, these people walk in every day, they see the same store, they see the same store leader, they see the same merchandise. You got to shock the system, and so that's what we're doing, and it's got to be big. If you think throwing $1 or $2 sometimes is going to make a difference, personally, I would say save your money. Make something really big that people can participate in, and that'll work from a sales strategy standpoint.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with having your customers or your employees really familiar with the product. And so what we found when we looked at our dips is, the product started coming down, whether it be screen protectors or cases. We started to circle back and go over training. And we noticed that a lot of our employees were not using the product that we wanted to sell. And so we circled back and we make it mandated that they use our product now. And we use the milestone report, but we don't do it every month. We'll do it like every other month or every quarter, just to kind of shake it up a little bit. We're constantly running different promotions, whether it be Yankee tickets, which right now probably aren't that valuable. Red Sox are doing even worse. But I think you just need to keep it fresh. I think that's the key to what you said is it's always, after a while, when you have people that are with you for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 years and they're in the same store or in the same position, or they're still interacting with customers, they're kind of tired of hearing the same thing, that they didn't sell a case, or they didn't sell that insurance, or that they didn't put on that higher data feature. And so we kind of walk them through it, and we, instead of telling them how to do it, we'll actually show them how to do it. I think that's a little bit more effective when you actually give them the tools rather than tell them what to do. And so we have, we're a small company, but for our size, we have a dedicated sales training manager who literally goes around and works with our staff and shows them how to do what they're supposed to do. He oversees the hiring of the new people as far as training them. The first couple of days do classroom training, and then he puts them into a store setting, and he actually removes himself and lets the district manager kind of train them on the sales floor. And then his job is to kind of go back around, and we have stack ranking reports, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, which we get through VI. And we look at the underperformers, and his ultimate job is to kind of figure out who's struggling, and before our sales manager has to wake them up, his job is to really go out and figure out how he can show them the tricks to get them better.
Absolutely. So with the holidays just around the corner, which I still think it's summer, so I'm shocked that 40% of customers actually begin their holiday shopping before Halloween, which we're going to turn around and go home and all be right in the middle of getting ready for the holiday season. I don't know if anyone can speak to just going into the upcoming holiday season. What's the #1 focus you guys have to make sure that we're successful going forward?
Making sure we have iPhone 5s in stock.
And we're done. No. Anyone want to take it?
Here we go. I'm sure I could list 20 different specific things that can be done, but the key for us that we've been focusing on is to maximize the opportunity while it's in our store. So we've been really focusing we've been worried about the holiday season 6 months ago. We started worrying about the holiday season, not now. It's too late, honestly. Let's just be honest with everyone. It's probably too late to create an effective strategy. Now, you could say, hey, I want to throw a whole bunch of money at it and do a mailer. But we've done that before. It's not overly successful if you're planning it in October. There's nothing worse than spending money on marketing and merchandising and whatnot to bring them into the stores, and then your people aren't equipped to actually make the sale when the customer walks in. So we're really focused on customer walks in, we're offering a complete sale, and that complete sale sometimes looks different for each customer. We're profiling them correctly. You know, we're making sure for us it's called a jetpack, or it could be a home phone connect, which is similar on the AT&T side and other carriers. It's the accessories, it's bundling in the NQ Mobile, it's bundling in that insurance opportunity to make sure we maximize it. We don't have a lot of opportunities to have, you know, sometimes 2 and 3 times the door swings in our stores. So you got to focus on the employees and make sure that they understand how much they're going to leave on the table. So we're planning on many folks, you know, capping out, you know, on their comp plan and reaching numbers that are astronomical, but only if they're going to take advantage of the opportunity while they're there. So we really do just focusing on sales training and making sure they understand and comfortable with the products they're providing. They're providing and showing value to the customers. Nothing worse than a customer walking in and then they have a little checklist to say, you know, my store leader said I'm supposed to, well, do you have a job? Okay, and then you're going down the list. That's not how you're going to be able to sell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anyone else?
I think that, I'm not sure on the Verizon side, but part of the challenging part that we have on the AT&T side is we don't always know what, let's face it, they got a bigger dollar to spend or more dollars to spend on advertising. So to be out there promoting our own brand when our name on the front of the building says AT&T is kind of challenging for us. And so more often than not, a lot of times we're at the mercy of the carrier because we don't know what their promotion or their plan is until the last minute. Right? We're told, you know, a few days before the end of the month, if that, because everybody's concerned about leaks and competition. So one of the challenging things that you have as far as the promotions are concerned from a handset perspective, because let's face it, that's what we sell. I mean, we like to think that we sell service, but it's the handset that really helps to make that decision. It becomes very, very challenging. We don't really have a lot of lead time and a lot of say and a lot of ability. And at any given point in time, the carrier can, you know, cut back what they want to sell by increasing activation fees or you know, doing whatever they want in order to slow that growth. Our biggest focus really is making sure that our stores are merchandised right, that we have the right accessories for the products we're attempting to sell, that we manage our cash flow effectively. So when that last minute promotion is sprung onto us and all of a sudden it's a brand new phone that we have to bring in at the end of the month, but we actually got to pay for it, you know, a few days later because we don't have that flow time in which to actually sell it and have the commissions coincide with that purchase. Managing that part of the process so that we have the fluff in the back in order to make it through those difficult times. Those are really kind of the key things that we focus on. And then finally making sure we're staffed because let's face it, you know, we all try to run that fine middle line between being lean yet having enough people to satisfy both the carrier and not have a customer walk because they're waiting. And come, you know, a month and a half or 2 months out of the year, all of a sudden we need a lot more people. So managing through how do we staff correctly, how do we get them up to speed, how do we get it to a point where they're, you know, any of the surveys that are hit, where the willingness to recommend in the store remains high because people know what they're talking about.
So I have a little bit of a different approach. I don't think that cell phones are really a gift anymore. I think for the holidays, if I brought my wife a cell phone for the holiday and put it under the tree, she'd have a big problem with that. So,
Because you should be giving it anyway.
all I know every day, happy life, happy life. So the concept that we look at our stores and we're actually trying to change our image. And I know AT&T is trying to do that a little bit more. There's less and less SKUs that we're selling. I know, you know, Apple used to be a smaller percent of our sales, and now that the price dropped on the other ones, it's becoming a much higher percentage, which means that a lot of the other manufacturers are getting less of a share. And so that means that we have less SKUs on the wall, and it's taking up less square footage of our stores. And we look at our business of how many square feet we have and what are we bringing in per square foot. And so the carriers, I think, are really starting to look at, we're at 100% penetration right now. And so what's next is how do we connect with our customers with more data? And that's with these extra things. And so we're really pushing for the holidays and tablets. And I think that you guys really need to take a step back and every carrier and say, would I buy my kid or my wife a tablet for the holiday? as opposed to a cell phone. And I think if anybody in my family got a tablet or a new tablet, or the newest tablet, they would be much more excited than if I brought them home a screen protector or a case or a phone. So with that said, I mean, we're looking at ourselves and then we're strategizing our stores accordingly. We're really trying to make that the focal point. Everything from retail radio coming out of the ceiling, letting people know about the tablets, to merchandising stores, mailers, email, the whole concept.
Our big focus this year is going to be on missed opportunities that comes in every sale. The missed opportunities, I mean, we're all aware that, yeah, we missed out on transfer protection, we missed out on cases and boards. But that's not what I'm talking about. The missed opportunity is going to be the data share line, you know. So with Verizon, they want 10 devices. They're making it clear to the world that they want 10 devices. And so that's kind of the missed opportunities we're focused on a lot is, to Mark's point and everything, is to get a tablet, to get a Wi-Fi, and those different things like that. So how do we maximize that? How do we take advantage of that? And that's really our focus this year, is to let new and improve missed opportunities.
Great. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for all of the great answers and jokes throughout the way. I'm guessing we probably will have a few questions from the crowd for the group. So if anyone has any questions, we will have Kelly here available to get them.
What is the average percentage of commissions to hourly? I know some of you said commission only, but if you're paying hourly, what's that formula that you're paying basically commissions to hourly?
I think you're referring to my commission structure. Okay, so we just run a report through BI which shows how much commission they made for the month and how many hours they worked. And it comes out to a number, and then we share that with them. So we'll share with them that, you know, your commission per hour was $6 or $7 per hour, but yet the person in the same store is making $12 or $13 an hour in commission without the base. And so we don't share what they're making on their hourly salary or their hourly pay, that's all private, but the commission we'll share because it breeds competition. And so when you're in a store, you're making $6 an hour commission, and the person next to you is making 8 or 10, just because they're a better salesperson, because they're closing the opportunities, and as Scott said, they're doing the full sale, they're adding the extras to it. They see it as real money, and not just a check that they get at the end of the month, or in 2 months, or whenever it comes in. They get it with their paycheck.
What do you see in your experience, though? What are you seeing 50-50? Most of your, on good employees?
Yeah, it's probably close. Our target is 50-50. Obviously, the ones that make more commission, we look at it as how much commission they're bringing to the organization also hourly. So I can see an employee and someone who's making $12 an hour is bringing in much more to the organization than someone making $6 an hour. And so their base pay will be higher as well because they're more valuable.
Hi, it seems like all you guys do some sort of contest or something. We have 11, soon to be 13 stores, and I'm sure you guys have some really, high traffic stores compared to some really low traffic stores. What do you guys do as far as, like, how do you make it fair to run a Super Bowl contest from somebody that's working at a, let's say an 80 box store compared to somebody that's working at a 200 plus box store?
We're always challenged by this because a lot of times the manufacturers will come to you and want to promote these programs. And I was fortunate enough to work for Nokia in the heyday, not recently, but in the heyday. We had 85% market share at one of the carriers, and I was on the carrier team. And I learned that if we ran promotions that were based upon the highest performers, then the highest performers would play and nobody else would. So I understand the dilemma that you're asking us. So what we do within our stores is we group our stores in classifications because, let's face it, your most successful store isn't just because of the salespeople. A lot of times it's because of the location or the size of the pylon or the monument or the income that the community has to offer or the population and the density. So we group our stores in classifications, and when we run the contest, we run them based upon 5 groups. So in each of the markets, we have 2 markets, Philadelphia and Florida. We'll group the stores into categories, and we don't necessarily call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to make somebody feel like they're at a lower level. We give them names, and we'll run the competitions amongst those groups. And all of those stores are within so many thousands of dollars in gross profit on a monthly basis. So it tries to make it a lot more fair. I think by doing that, you get everybody to participate and everybody to play.
I can tell you in our stores, when we run contests, we always do a drawing style. So here's the criteria. You're in tickets for the drawing. And if you have 1 ticket or if you have 100 tickets, the only thing it does is changes your odds, but it still makes it fair for the guys that have too many ups or too many tickets in the drawing and stuff. So.
We've done that too, and surprisingly, so a lot of times it's the person with the least amount of sales that actually wins the contest. But it makes it interesting for everybody. But on a smaller scale, when you don't have that many stores, we can break them up into different categories. I think you said you have like 13, assuming 13 stores. What we found is we did everything by percentage. And so it was, what's your accessory take rate per opportunity? So an opportunity for us is a phone that's sold, and we measure it every day. We use a stack rank report that goes out every single day. It gets emailed to every staff member, and so they can compete with the contest fairly. It's strictly percentage. So if you're in a high volume store and you're doing, let's just 25 phones that day versus a slower store doing 5 phones, it's your take rate. It's how many cases per phone. And so it's fair for everyone. Usually the higher volume stores have more salespeople. And so it comes out to, in our case, the people who are making the highest commission per hour, they're not in the busiest stores. Because they're so busy trying to get that customer out and get the next customer in, that the people in the slow volume stores are actually making more money because they can spend the time and maximize every sale.
We have time for about one more question.
Not necessarily on this, I don't think I need this, on the sales floor, but we're more about doing marketing, and she does HR, personnel, commissions. What's your experience been? We've just started working on overtime commissions or time and a half commissions. What's your experience with that? We just enrolled as the team, and everybody thought it was a negative thing. They're not understanding that they actually will be making more. But what's your experience with that? Do any of you have to work with that?
We do a lot of calculating to make sure that we're covered. Some states are different. No, we're not. They're not different. And so we manage that very, very carefully. But there's a calculation. We calculate it all the time to make sure that we're covered. And it's very hard to explain that to the sales team for them to understand how that calculation is. In general, we just tell them, hey, if you sell more, then we don't have to calculate that.
I was going to say, we have an HR department too that handles a lot of that stuff, so I wouldn't be able to answer the question based on weights.
The labor board's not here, guys.
We tell them all to keep their mouths shut. They want to keep their jobs.
The way we pay, it's minimum wage or your commissions, whichever is greater. So if we wind up having to pay time and a half because they, exceed their hours, then I'm doing it at $7.40 an hour. I'm not doing it at $10 or $15 an hour or something.
Can I actually help answer that? Because this is content research as well.
Yeah. An answer from the crowd. That's
Yeah.
first.
Well, I work with Scott, and we've actually been audited by the Department of Labor, and I'm happy to say we passed. So the rules, if you check in, thank you. Yeah, it's a loaf of bread. But the rules on overtime are really specific, and there's a lot of exemptions you can get when you're in retail. So for instance, if somebody's commission is more than 1.5 times minimum wage, you actually don't have to pay them any overtime, hourly or commission. So there's some tricky calculations in there, what Scott was talking about. And so you have to make sure they make at least 1.5 times minimum wage in order to hit that exemption. At the same time, if somebody doesn't hit that exemption, and they work overtime, you have to pay them overtime on commissions. So not to question anybody up there who's only paying overtime on the hourly pay, but you could have a potential liability situation if you do that. You actually have to take the commissions that they earned, divided by the number of hours that they worked to get an effective hourly pay, and then multiply that by 0.5, not 1.5 because they already got the 1, and pay that additional commission if they made less than 1.5 times the minimum wage. So do some checking on this, because especially right now as the state and federal government's broke due to my political opinion of our current president. But sorry, Scott, but Scott actually likes him. But at the same time, there's a lot of audits going on, and so but just to be very clear, there's some very specific rules.
Leave my resume in the back for anyone.
He's just saying if Obama gets reelected, I'm going to have to downsize. But no, seriously. But what I was saying is, no, okay, I'm just done. Seriously, just to finish the one thing on this. So seriously, the key is be careful. There's a lot of very specific rules on that. So and it's federal law, and so it applies to all of us. Well, all the U.S. people.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys so much.